Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Wednesday's edition of Morning Cup of Hockey presented by Bet365. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets, whatever the moment, whatever the sport. It's never ordinary at Bet365, so use our code NATION, N-A-T-I-O-N. Nation, that's Colby Cohen. I'm Johnny Lazarus. We got Bruce Boudreau already waiting for us to bring him on. I don't know if we're going to bring him on right off the bat because I think Colby might want to say a thing or two before he joins the show. Colby's in a pretty sassy mood today, so I'm a little scared of him. I don't know if I want to send it over to him right away. He's pretty angry at me this morning.
I have nothing to say this morning, Johnny. So why don't you read the ad read and bring in Bruce?
So before we bring on Bruce Boudreau, just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Proraso, the most complete choice for shaving and beard care. Made in Italy since 1948, Proraso has been a staple of Italian culture and barbershops globally for 4 generations. So get 15% off at Proraso-USA.com with our promo code Hockey15 in all caps, Hockey15. And let's bring on friend of the show, now a recurring guest, Bruce Boudreau. And Bruce, let me ask you a question right off the hop here. The Washington Capitals, who I criticized personally a lot last year, have now won 6 out of 7 to get going here this year. Are they a real threat in the Eastern Conference right now?
You know what? They're a good team. There's I've seen them live 3 times now and watched the game again last night, and they're checking off a lot of the balances. They're much better than last year's team. They can score, as indicated by just their numbers. Alex looks a lot better, but they're not depending on him to be the guy right now. He got 2 last night, which was great. The first 2 that he actually shot in the net, and he looked excited about it. But this is just a good hockey club, and if you take them lightly, they're going to beat you.
And I'm just wondering, with Spencer Carberry in his second year, and I'll ask you to maybe reflect a little bit and go back to your own coaching career. How much knowledge do you gain from that first National Hockey League season into the second? Because, just some of the coaches that I've played for and that I know and I've spoken to, just, they all say like the learning curve is pretty steep pretty quickly.
Yeah, and you know what, Spencer, everybody knows he's done a good job, but that first year, whether you like it or not, you're in awe an awful lot of the time. And by the second year, the other teams. Don't forget, when you first come into the league, you don't really know what the other teams are all about. You may play them 2 times, you may play them 3 times a year, but by the time you get into the second year, like he's played 4 games against Peter Laviolette in the playoffs. He's going, okay, I know how this team plays. This is how we're going to defend it. They don't have to just go on the video for the one day and say, okay, this is what they do. Let's do it. You get to know the intricacies of the other coach, and I think it's vital. The second year is a vital year.
You said something interesting off the hop, though, that Alex looked excited when he put in 2 last night. He's a guy that, obviously he's on the older side. I think, 36, 37 now?
No, he's 39.
39. So, he's that old, yeah. 39? Yeah. Oh, my God.
He's an 86 birth year, Johnny.
Well,
I'm 36.
That's my bad for not realizing that he's 39 years old. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But, older guys like that, and Ovi, obviously, I feel like it's never been a concern to see him get excited to score a goal. He's always been one to celebrate almost every time he scores. But, there's been a lot of chatter. I'm not going to name names about an older guy on the other side of who the Caps played last night that just seems a little disinterested as we're seeing Ovi's first goal, courtesy of ESPN over here. But when you have an older guy that maybe, has made his money and might not seem like he's necessarily enjoying the game, at a certain time.
Well, you know what? I think you're wrong there. I think it's not a question of enjoying the game. When you're an older guy and you've done everything that Alex has done.
I'm not speaking about Alex, by the way.
No, I get it. But any older guy's been in the league for a long time, right? You don't jump up into the league at 38 years old for your first kick at the can. So, you expect more of yourself. And what I've seen with older guys is all of a sudden, they keep expecting the amount of ice time that they'd been getting when they were in their mid-20s, and they keep expecting good things to happen. So when it doesn't happen, it gets a little like it bugs everybody because you're sitting there at home and you go, I should be doing this. I played till I was 38, and I mean, the latter part, I'm going, man, like, I mean, I remember making those plays so easily, and they're not coming. So it's not a question of being unhappy or what happened. But I mean, Alex scored an empty net goal, and he got one that hit his stick, and when he was in front of the net, hit another guy and went in the net. But these two, he shot in the net. So I think like that's what he was looking for, to get those shots and making goals like that he's been used to getting. And that's why he looked, I think, a little bit happier last night.
Johnny, when you're referring to the older guy on the other team, who are you referring to?
Did you know, Bruce, or no?
No, I was trying to figure it out while I was talking.
I was talking about Mika Zibanejad.
Mika Zibanejad's what, 31?
31. He's older, not a young guy in the league.
I know, but you can't compare a 31-year-old and a 39-year-old.
Well, to what Bruce said about being excited to score goals.
I wanted to say was, Bruce, every time you tell Johnny he's wrong, the amount that we pay you per minute, it goes up at least 300%. So we do appreciate.
I'm all for good arguments.
That.
Well, 300 times 0 is what?
No, but I appreciate it. Like, listen.
No, Zibanejad doesn't have the same feeling. I'm talking about when I had a Teemu Selanne or who was in his 40s, and Alex Ovechkin and Mikko Koivus, who are in their upper 30s. 31, you're still a kid as far as I'm concerned. You've got experience in the league, but you're just, you're still going strong. Panarin's 32. And he looks excited most nights. And there's so many early 30s or late 20 guys that are looking great. Older guys are guys like Corey Perry and Alex Ovechkin and Sidney Crosby. Those are the older guys.
Let me ask you, did you ever have to sit a guy like that and pull him out of the lineup? And how hard is that to do? And obviously, I don't want to say obviously, but would you look at those situations and handle them differently than you would, a guy in their 20, the 25-year-old, 26-year-old? I think I would know the answer, but I don't want to answer for you because you're the one with the experience.
You have to have the respect for the older guys. And I hated sitting guys, older guys, veteran guys that have been through the wars and that. But I've had to do it. I had to sit Teemu Selanne one night. I had to sit that's tough.
Oh.
I mean, when you're sitting Hall of Famers and stuff, boy, it's the last thing you want to do. And I have so much respect for the veterans, and so doing stuff like that, and I've had to sit other guys that were older, that were in their 30s and stuff, and I hated doing that, but. On the other hand, if you don't make the decisions if you're not willing to make those tough decisions, you're not willing to be a coach. I mean, you don't have to like what you do all the time, but I mean, you have to do what's the betterment of the team.
Did you usually tell guys directly, or would your assistant coaches do that? And would it be different if it was a guy like Teemu Selanne that would maybe come directly from you?
Oh, it would come the day before too, and I would wait and I would talk to him personally, and I would talk to all the veterans personally. And if you're a young guy, especially if you're a call-up guy, I would just, when you come in the morning and you weren't in the starting lineup, then you knew. But I made a point of telling everybody why they were sitting out. And I hated, there was times I sat out good young players. I've sat out Patrick Maroon, Matt Bolesky, Kyle Palmieri, all of those guys at certain times. But I mean, you're looking at different things to try to get different things going. It might be, if it's a young guy and they start out playing well, and then all of a sudden they go into a little bit of a nosedive, you might want to just get them back on track and say, hey, you're not as good as you think you are. Let's get back to where you were. And but with the older guys, it's different. You have to have the respect for them. They're the ones that have played 15 years in the league.
I feel like we have to ask too at this point, what was your reasoning for scratching Teemu?
The GM told me to. I didn't want to do it. But And obviously he didn't want to do it, so he makes me be the bad guy. You go down and tell him, and I mean, it was tough for me and Teemu for a couple of years there, but I mean, then I think Ryan Getzlaf pulled him aside and told him what had really happened. And the next time I saw him, he came up and he apologized, and we were fine. But I mean, at the time when Bob Murray told me to sit him out, I mean, it was a playoff game. I didn't want to do it, and I had to wait for him after practice, and he was pissed at me for quite a while. And then when they asked Bob Murray, "Oh, what'd you think about the coach sitting him out?" he said, "Well, it's a coach's decision." So threw me right under the bus.
Sounds like what Johnny would have done to me. So I feel for you, Bruce.
Well, I mean, that leads us perfectly into a topic that we wanted to talk to you about, because Colby and I spent, a majority of our show on Monday talking about Patrick Waugh and Lou Lamoriello and what seemed like a disconnect on Long Island. And, they've come out and said ever since that they're on the same page. But, clearly it seems right now that Patrick Waugh doesn't have necessarily the players that he wants, especially in that 11th and 12th forward spot on the Islanders. And I'm curious just how much of that is really an impactful thing day to day with the decisions that are made from coaches and how it comes from upstairs.
Well, I always thought that, I mean, hey, I don't care who you give me. I mean, I can give, if you ask me, I'll tell you who I want and what I need. But I mean, whoever's there, I got to work with. That's my job as the coach. I mean, the one thing, and I don't have a clue what's going on in Long Island, but let's face it, Patrick in junior, he was the owner, general manager, and coach. So he didn't have anybody telling him what to do. He had a problem when he went to Colorado. Really good coach, but he wanted different players that Joe Sakic wanted that didn't want, and that inlay became a problem. I don't know if that's going on in Long Island or not. You're just saying it is a little bit, but I have no idea whether they're butting heads with different individuals or not. But the one thing I'll say about the Islanders, they don't make a lot of changes, and they keep getting older, and that's not a good combination.
Mm-hmm. What do you think? And this was another topic we discussed, and no one more perfect to ask this than you with your resume is, how much should the coaches be involved in these player personnel decisions? Because I do feel like in the NFL, at least from watching Hard Knocks, and I spent a lot of time in New England, so Bill Belichick was the GM, the coach, and the god for so long, but I personally, and again, I have no experience in upper management or coaching in the National Hockey League, but I think coaches should be involved in player personnel decisions, because at the end of the day, you're the one who's putting the structure together. You're the one to, for the most part, putting a lineup together. I think in most situations, you're the one controlling ice time. So why wouldn't a GM bring you into the fold and go through things and make you a part of those decisions? I would just think that it would make for a more cohesive lineup as to what you're trying to do. If he hired you, that means he believes in your ability to coach. So why not make sure the tools are there for you to be successful?
Sounds pretty normal, pretty, reasonable, doesn't it? Like, yeah. I mean, but sometimes, I mean, when you have a good working relationship with your GM, that's the exact way, because nobody knows the players like the coach does. He's with them all the time. He talks to them. The GM, when he starts butting in there, and it becomes a problem if it's his guy type thing and he wants his guy played. I think the relationship between the coach and the GM is paramount. And if it's really good, you do have all these discussions. And if it's really bad, then the GM just goes out and gets who he wants. And there were times I'd come to some practices and oh, we got this guy called up. I didn't even know. They wouldn't even tell me. I just go in the dressing room, see the guy's jersey there, and go, "Oh, I guess I got to adjust to him now, right?"
Wow, and that is crazy.
It is crazy. I should write a book, but
you should write a book. I would read it, and we would promote it on the show.
Yeah. People have to die before I do that, though. So I mean, but I mean, it's the case. The good relationship people, they talk it out. They talk, and And like, I mean, when I had Chuck Fletcher, he'd ask me, he said, "What do you need?" I said, "I need a fourth line center, and I need that position done." And he would listen. Now he might not have gotten the guy I wanted, but at least they listened. George McPhee listened. I asked him. I said, "We need a second line center behind Nick Backstrom." And then he came down. I remember the trade deadline, and he came downstairs and he says, "I just got a second line center. Do you think this Fedorov guy will work for you?" And I said, "Yeah, I think he's going to be okay." And but I mean, those GMs, they worked with you. They knew the way I was coaching, what I'm using, like the players, how I'm using them, that I needed a player, and they went out and got the right one.
One of my first
Makes too much
experiences of
sense.
heartbreak as a hockey fan was that Sergei Fedorov Game 7 goal, I think in 09, came down on Wade Redden on the off wing and let one rip short side high on Lundqvist. I think that was 2009, right?
It was one of my favorite moments.
Yeah, one of my
ever.
least favorite.
So, yeah, 4.5 minutes left in the game, and I made the score 2-1, and it was awesome as the fans stood up for the rest of the game, and it was the loudest I'd ever heard a building. So it'll go down as one of my great memories, I think, and one of your worst, which just really makes me happy. So,
Bruce, let me zigzag back to this whole to the New York Rangers for a second. And my last question for you is going to be on a topic that we talk about this guy on our show consistently. He's definitely Johnny's favorite player in the National Hockey League. But I want to ask you about Alexis Lafraniere. And what I want to ask you about is the power play situation with him. And how difficult is it for a guy like Peter Laviolette? He's got this power play. It's been good for a number of years. He really doesn't want to break it up, but he's got this budding young superstar up and comer who's knocking on the door. But again, we talk about this all the time. Like, it's not just necessarily the best five. You've got to be the right fit for the right spots of a power play. But how do you manage that with a guy like Lafraniere, who does look prime to get more opportunity on the power play, but there's really just not a spot for him because he's a left-handed shooter the way their power play operates?
yeah, I mean, they got Zibanejad, Panarin, Kreider, Fox, and who else is on
Trocheck.
there? And Trocheck. I mean, it's a pretty good five. I mean, I don't care how good Lafreniere is. I mean, one of those guys is going to get hurt at some point in the year and miss time, and that's going to be his opportunity to jump in. He's probably the next guy up and on the first unit. And when he gets in there, they've got to do well so he doesn't get out of there. I mean, the second unit a lot of times only gets about 30 seconds on the power play anyway. But it's one of those things that if this was a bad power play, he would have gotten his chance a long time ago. But it's a really good power play, so he's going to have to bide his time. And when he gets the chance, he's going to have to prove that he doesn't deserve to be off it.
Mm-hmm. Bruce, I got two more for you before we let you go. And again, we're seriously appreciative of your time this morning. Both kind of interesting questions. One's personal for me, and I feel like you'd have a good answer. What would be your most annoying question that you were asked by media as a head coach? Is there one that just really ticked you off? Because I feel like every coach has one.
They used to annoy me an awful lot in all the questions. It was more of, if the question when I was in Washington that would get me, it didn't matter if we won or lost, if we did the right thing or the wrong thing. They would always ask me about Alex, even if he was just out there and he didn't play a good game. If he played a good game, it was 3 goals, 2 assists or something, I'd want to talk about him all day. But if we won 4-1 and he wasn't really a factor, they only still wanted to talk about him. And I thought other guys deserved to be, when you win and he's not the guy, he'd get the conversation. So
yeah, that's a good one. And then the last one I have for you, this is actually coming from a friend who plays for the Hershey Bears, and he told me to ask you what your favorite post golf meal is at Hogan Grill.
Rum and Diet Coke. No, I mean, yeah, I live right across the street from the Hogan Grill, and it's and we're there a lot, and we're golfing a lot, and the Hershey Bears got it pretty good. They get the golf there for free too. It's a pretty good thing, and you usually see them at the end of the year, all standing out there, because during hockey season, actually, it's 80 degrees today. I'll be playing that course a little later on, but it's going to be a good day. I got a question for you.
Hit me.
Actually. Okay. What's going to happen tonight in the most important game of all sports?
Most important game of all sports.
You don't think there's a World Series game on tonight?
You're in New York. Care about baseball.
Hey, you're in New York and you don't care about the Yankees? What are you on drugs?
Bruce, I don't give one shit about baseball. I don't care at all.
Oh man, are you
Not
kidding?
at all. I actually, you know what? I was on the Mets bandwagon. So I was rooting for them. More of my friends are Mets fans, and the Yankees. Listen, they all feel sorry for themselves because they haven't been in the World Series in 15 years. Like, it's the biggest drought ever. They could suffer a little bit more.
But I mean, if you're a Yankee fan, it hurts.
I'm wearing a Mariners hat.
Yeah.
Listen, Bruce, the last time they took out my Phillies in the World Series years ago when I was in college, I don't forget. So I'm looking. I want to see Shohei Ohtani put them to sleep and put them to sleep once and for all.
Garrett Cole's going to get for all you listeners that are true sports fans.
Are you a Yankees fan?
Oh, been my whole life, like since I was 5 years old, since Mickey Mantle. So wow. I mean, and I can go through the list of all the players that I just used to idolize there. But Garrett Cole's going to shut them down today. They're going to go into LA and they're going to create a miracle. And I think that would be great for sports.
Let me ask you one more thing then. What'd you make of the fan last night that ripped the ball out of Mookie Betts' glove?
What an idiot. What a New Yorker. I loved it. He looked like he was doing a good thing. And in the first inning, he probably got kicked out of the game. So
he did right after.
Yeah. So he probably didn't see any of the game. And I guarantee those tickets weren't cheap.
Oh,
he's probably banned from Yankee Stadium for life, but I'll tell you that he's going to say it's worth it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure he had a couple cocktails when he was at the bar across the street waiting for his buddies to come back. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
All right, Bruce. Well, look, good luck with all your teams out there in Hershey. We really appreciate your time. You could catch. Are you going to be doing NHL Network frequently this year? Like, where can we find you on a regular basis?
Well, geez, I'm pretty well everywhere, but I mean, I'm doing the NHL Network about 7 days a month. I do Caps TV, the pre and post games on Caps TV, and I do TSN. I work for TSN up in Toronto, so it's about 18 to 20 days a month. I'm doing these things, and then I got all the XM stuff that I'm doing with the radio. So it keeps me busy, and there's nothing better about talking hockey, talking sports, and thank you guys for having me on.
Yeah, we need to get you behind an NHL bench immediately. I think that's where you're meant to be, behind an NHL bench. So hopefully that happens here soon at some point.
The Titans in the NA could use a guy.
I'm going over to our USPHL team's practice right now. So, I mean, they need me. They need some help. I don't know whether it's necessarily me, but they need some help too.
All right.
Thanks. Have a great day and go enjoy that 80-degree weather.
Okay. Bye-bye now.
See you later. Awesome guy. I was actually, when he said he has a question for me, I was so afraid he was going to chirp me. I should have known better about the baseball game, by the way. But awesome hearing from Bruce Boudreau. Colby,
even I knew exactly what he was talking about.
I honestly thought there'd be a day in between because they play 2 days in a row. They do 3 days in a row in the World Series.
They just baseball. They do 3 games in a day sometimes.
Is it 2-3-2? The World Series?
Yeah, because of the coast.
2-3-2.
Yeah, okay. Well, because a lot of times you have big.
I didn't know that. All right, but let's get into some more storylines from last night.
Hold on. I want to touch on a couple of things that we talked about with him. The Lafraniere thing was interesting. Like, because every fan is like banging on the drum right now. I think people, even in our chat, like people are calling for Mika Zibanejad's head. Look, I didn't get to watch the game last night. I looked a little bit of the condensed stuff this morning. The Titans had a game last night that didn't go so well, but I do think it's interesting, you get his point of view and you get his perspective, like young players, and he's still a young player. Like they're just, their leashes are not as long. Like a guy like Mika who's struggling, and
you mean their leashes are longer.
Right. Well, I'm saying the veteran players, they have longer leashes. Like, if this power play unit goes cold, like they're not going to change it in 3 weeks. Like they're going to give it maybe a month or two. Like it's just, you just get a longer leash. You get a different level of respect. I mean, you heard the difference for Bruce Boudreau talking about how like a veteran player will get a one-on-one conversation with a head coach, and a call up or a first year guy, well, they just see it on the board that they're not playing. Like it's just a completely different atmosphere. And it's just interesting to get his perspective, especially on some of the things that he was talking about between GMs and coaches. Like, imagine that you walk into the room and
it's the coach's decision to sit Teemu Selanne.
But how about not even telling your general manager, not even telling you that the player got called up?
Yeah,
that's why when we go back and look at Patrick Waugh and Lou Lamoriello, and you look at the comments, I don't care what anybody says. There is a problem. I don't care what Patrick Waugh comes out and says the next day doing damage control. There is clearly an issue. When you are staying Lou's decision, not the New York Islanders, there's a massive problem there. So I don't believe the fanning of the flames that the Islanders and the rest of the New York media, which is all scared of Lou Lamoriello, clearly had to say over the last 24 hours. It's a story and it's real. And they lost again last night to the Ducks, a team that to me, I thought would be a little bit better this year, and they haven't been. And so
Joe Stahl played great again, though. I mean, he's been lights out for them in the early going of this year. Also, snaps to Vic though. Vic's bet was under 6 last night. That was Vic's pick on the show yesterday. But no, like you said, I mean, listen, like the Islanders, for whatever reason, they've been shut out 3 times in 9 games. They can't find ways to score. Matt Barzal scores in the power play last night, but he doesn't even have a 5-on-5 goal this year. He has a goal that's an empty netter, and then he has a power play goal last night. But like, he's a guy that has to find ways to score too. Same with Bo Horvat.
He just doesn't make everybody around him, like he just doesn't raise everybody else's level. Like forever, we're like, oh, this guy has no one to play with. This guy has no one to play with. But like the most elite players in the National Hockey League take guys that are 20 goal scorers and make them 30 goal scorers, or make 30 assist players 40 or 50 assist players. Like that's where you look at Lafraniere and you look at Panarin. Like they're both rising each other's level. Like if Lafreniere is a 20 goal man without him, he's a 30 goal man with him. If Breadman's a 25 goal, you're raising each other's level. Who is Matt Barzal raising their like? He's not doing that.
No, it's not happening. And I want to give a shout out to Ariel, who's a loyal contributor to our chat. And I don't know if you saw it, Colby, but I think she's listening to our show too much. She said last night about the Islanders, and she's the most passionate, loyal Islanders fan that I've maybe seen or talked to or have heard from. And she said, quote unquote, this team is cheeks. I think she's been listening to our show a little bit too much, Colby, but that made me smile when I saw that on Twitter last night. But again, even Bruce said it, like they haven't changed much. If you're an Islanders fan, like, what are you thinking right now? This team is a team that 3-4 years ago went to back-to-back conference finals, and they have not done much to elevate their team to get above that.
Yeah.
That's got to be so frustrating as a fan.
The one note we had here that we didn't ask Bruce about that I wish we had, and we had kind of limited time with him today. We couldn't pull our normal shit where we ask a guy for 20 minutes and we keep him for 40. But yeah, it was about Pedersen. We didn't get to that. He seems to be a guy, Bruce, that is not afraid to tell the truth. Like a lot of people are just going to give you the static answers, but He's a guy who's not afraid to deal with the truth. And then the other situation I wanted to ask him about was how to deal with Rempe, because like you call him up for one game to fight, and to play tough against maybe Wilson. He obviously fights McElrath. And then what do you do with this guy? Like, how do you handle this whole situation? I mean, Enstrom, in what I saw and when I watched the condensed version of the game, he didn't have a very good night.
Nobody did. They all looked terrible last night. Besides the third line. The third line for the Rangers, Cooley, Kakko, Hedl, is the only line that continues to look incredible. And
I was just gonna say they seem very consistent.
They are. They're the only line in the NHL that has not been scored on yet at 5-on-5. They're outscoring opponents 9-0. And listen, Kakko's a guy that's been criticized basically his whole time in New York so far. He's found a fitting with these two. And Philip Hedl, if the Rangers had this version of Philip Hedl last year, it would have changed. I think it would have changed a lot. Hedl right now is playing like, a second line center. And that's something, but that's a story, Colby. Like, that's what's going on with Mika Zibanejad right now. A story came out yesterday with Larry Brooks that Zibanejad's ice time has gone down. Like, it has, because that third line is playing well. Right now, they're the second line, in my opinion. It's Trocheck's line, Hedl's line, and then Zibanejad's line. That's kind of how it's looked.
Yeah. Well, listen, when you have three lines that can produce, and you have a third line center that you can really count on in both ends, I mean, it's pretty monumental. So, all right, let's move on to some of the Tuesday night storylines that we wanted to hit on here. Thanks again to Bruce Boudreau. I didn't realize that he was doing. I knew he was doing NHL Network. I didn't realize he was doing 18 days a month.
Yeah.
I didn't know he was doing TSN. We obviously don't get that. And I knew that he did a little bit of radio for Sirius XM radio, but he is a great personality, and good job to our producer for getting him to come on the show. Johnny's had a bit of a tough week with guests and striking. I'm surprised.
Left and right.
I'm surprised you're not a baseball guy with how much you strike out with girls and with guests. Like,
well, why would I like baseball?
I would think that you would be pretty tuned into baseball, because you're pretty much not even getting your bat on things right now. You're pretty standing there going backwards K and just watching that third strike go by you.
It's been a rough week, and I don't know where to transition from that. So thank you for doing that. Well, I guess storylines from last night, obviously, Marc-Andre Fleury going back to Pittsburgh for the last time, beating the Penguins, like just an incredible tribute. Probably the would you rank him as the most lovable NHL player in the last 20 years? He has to be. Is there one person that can sit here and say, like, I hate Marc-Andre Fleury? Like, he's got to be the most lovable guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably, you could see, for those of you who are audio only, he's getting a standing ovation at the end of the game. Curtis, the video from our friends at ESPN. Letang and Crosby stayed on the ice. They had a little bit of an embrace. Fleury was first star of the game. Everybody was up on their feet. In Pittsburgh again, like it's incredible to watch the respect that this guy gets, obviously in Pittsburgh. And he deserves all of it, and I think I've told this story on the show before, but I'll just bring it up again. I got really lucky when I was working in Chicago. I think Eddie Olczyk had a TNT game and so I got to do Flowers' 500th win, which was a game in Montreal. And obviously we didn't know he was going to win that game, but to get to call a game in Montreal, first off, super cool. Second off, Marc-Andre Fleury has a chance to get his 500th win in the National Hockey League, putting him, I don't remember if it was 1, 2, or 3, somewhere in the top 3. But what was so cool about this game was that with like 5 minutes to go in Montreal, the fans were chanting "Flower, Flower" for the last 5 minutes of the game. Everybody was up on their feet. I'm pretty sure, I don't know if it was a shutout or if it was 2-1. If it was a 2-1 game, but it was a close hockey game, low scoring, close game, two bad teams. And I know it's his hometown, but to see a Canadian team in a Canadian market stand up and cheer for a guy who never actually played for them in that city and get that standing ovation and I mean, it's incredible. And what's cool is the guy that everybody gets to see in the interviews and the pranks and the bench stuff. That's actually just who he is behind closed doors. I got to witness it, flying on the plane with him, talking to him, on the bus and spending time with him in that Chicago, circus and locker room. He is exactly as advertised, and the genuine personality that everybody sees on camera. It's truly who he is. There's no acting there, Jonny. And, my getting to witness those kinds of things was incredible. Like, he's just gives everybody the time of day. Such a good family man. There's nothing you can say about this guy that's not as high class of a human being as you can. And, I think those types of people should be celebrated. And I'm glad that the game is celebrating him.
Yeah, and I hate to kind of do this because I don't know if I agree, but I don't know if it's a statement from Neil Fody in our chat, but he's asking, is Flower a top 5 goalie of all time? Like, I know he's second in wins in his career. He's got 563 wins, Marty Brodeur 691, but I still don't know if I consider Marc-Andre Fleury a top 5 goalie of all time.
Give us the list. You have the list of
Okay,
the
I
top
have the list
5.
in front of me.
Give us some more names, right?
Brodeur is 1, Fleury is 2, Patrick Waugh is 3, Roberto Luongo is 4, Ed Belfour 5, Henrik Lundqvist 6, Curtis Joseph 7, Terry Sawchuk 8, Jacques Plante, who I don't know, he's probably an older guy, 9, and then Tony Esposito's 10.
Okay.
So that's top 10 right there.
Dominic Hasek isn't even a name that you mentioned because he didn't play for that long. But
he's 17.
Here's what I want to say to the chat, because I see a lot of people, with differing opinions, and I probably wouldn't put him top 5 all time, but I also think you've got to remember goalies in their prime. You got to remember players in their prime. What we have as of late he's not been as good as he was in his the guy's 37, 38 years old now, probably maybe 39, something like that. He's right up there. But for everybody in the chat right now, telling like Singsy, you had a quote that said Flower is not a top 20 goalie of all time. So here's my question for you. How could a guy be the second winningest goaltender of all time and you don't think he's a top 20 goalie of all time? I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say I think he's the second best goalie of all time. Top 5, probably debatable. But I would probably lean outside the top 5. But I think when you start looking at the top 10, I'd have to probably start really thinking about him. But I wonder though, Singsy, and I'm talking to you specifically here, like how do you differentiate win? Like, wins is the most important stat you can have in hockey. Like,
I think for me, the reason why I don't consider him that high is just because, outside of the 2009 run, like, he makes that crazy save in Game 7, in the dying seconds against Detroit. But in the other cup runs that Pittsburgh had, there's no like Marc-Andre Fleury moment, right? And I think, in both runs, Matt Murray takes the net over. I think the second run, maybe Murray started it, Fleury came in, and then Murray finished it. But it didn't seem like those Penguins teams were so reliable toward Fleury, or so relied on Fleury. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's just where.
But hold on, I want to say this. Like, if we're talking playoffs, like, we don't even count playoffs when we talk about stats,
wins,
awards, and wins, and like playoffs are not part of those wins. And like,
but when you think top goalie of all time, you're probably leaning playoffs, right?
Right, but with goaltending in particular, like goaltending is sometimes not necessarily about the marquee moment. It's about, the timeliness of your saves. Like, if we're talking about a guy who's second most wins all time, and I don't know who said it because the chat's now buzzing. Someone said wins is a team stat. Of course, wins is a team stat, but look how many teams in the NHL right now have a bad goalie who lets in a soft goal and deflates your team. Like, Jonny and I were talking before the show today. How many teams in the National Hockey League have bad goaltending or average goaltending? Look at the goals last night in the St. Louis game. Like, a lot of those goals are soft goals that guys need to have. Like, when your team is in a tight hockey game and it's 1-1, right? Just ask the Flyers. And I know they played well last night and Urson played well, but look at what the Flyers this year. Like, every time they're in a tight game and Fedotov lets in a soft goal or Urson has let in a soft goal, your bench completely deflates. So the timeliness of your saves, and we're talking about Fleury, who's second most all-time in wins, right? And there is like, you know, Brodeur is kind of in his own, wins are kind of in their own category. And you could make the argument, look at how the Devils played. Look at the trap that they played. Look at the systems that he was in. I just want to point these things out.
This is a good argument.
It's unfair to just say it's a team stat. But at the end of the day, he's the last line of defense, right?
So can I ask you this too? Like, what would you say? Give me a number. Like, would be a great year for a goalie. Like wins. How many wins in a season? Is 30 a great year, or is 40 like the great year?
Well, I think it's hard. It's hard to answer that question right now because now goalies split game. Like goalies back.
Well, I'm saying like in Fleury's generation, you know, like those goalies. Like what? Like is 30 how you'd put it?
I guess probably would be like an unbelievable year because what do we say now? 20 wins is unbelievable?
No, 20 wins is not unbelievable for goalies now. I still think
25.
Georgiev had like 40 wins last year or 2 years ago.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah.
But I was going to give you this stat too because Colby, you mentioned wins. So top 5 all-time goalies with 30 win seasons, the most 30 win seasons. This is a really good top 5. So I'll give you this. 1 is Marty Brodeur. He had 14 30-win seasons. 2 is Patrick Waugh. He had 13. 3 is Henrik Lundqvist. He had 11. 4 is Ed Belfour. He had 9. And 5, well, tied for 4, I guess, is Marc-Andre Fleury with 9 30-win seasons. And then Pecorine is the one behind Marc-Andre Fleury.
And Tommy T, I'll address your chat. Careful, Colby. You pumped Tim Thomas for a good reason. Tendy and playoffs matter. Yeah. Like, look, we don't win in 11 without Tim Thomas. Like, it's not even. It's the one thing that is undebatable about 2011. I can specifically visualize saves that he made late in games, in overtimes, in the first round of the playoffs. We would have been done in the first round against Montreal. So I'm not abandoning that, right? But I'm just saying, like, how many wins does this guy have? Like, I just don't think it's fair to say it's a team stat. Sure, it is a team stat, but it's not just a team stat because how many teams in the NHL right now would die for a goalie who they can rely on during the regular season, who they can rely on to get them to the playoffs?
I'm having so much fun with this. I'm going to do one more that supports you, Colby. Ready for this? NHL record for playoff wins. I'll go 1 through 5. 1, Patrick Waugh, 151 wins. 2, Marty Brodeur, 113 wins. 3, Grant Fuhr, 92 wins. Tied with Grant Fuhr, Marc-Andre Fleury, 92 wins.
I mean, like, it's I know
it just like I agree with our chat though. It doesn't feel like he's done that.
But is that a narrative or is that reality? Is that a narrative or is it reality?
No, I'm saying the same thing. Like as a hockey fan, and if you told me Marc-Andre Fleury was in those categories, I'd be like, I think I'd be surprised at how good he really has been. Like he's been around for a long time.
Let's get Merle's comment up that he had Lundqvist and Fleury played in a 3-on-3 and shootout error. So no ties and a better chance for wins. Good point. But then Merle's also, and look, Merle's was part of that generation. Like Merle's was in Pittsburgh with Fleury at one point. So and then again, I think Merle's is caught off guard. He said, "Oh wow, like the playoff win." You know, like again, I think like as we're talking through this, everybody was really quick to be like, Flowers not a top goalie.
Yeah.
And Singsy, I know you're a stubborn guy and you're not going to come around here, but
he might. He might.
I'm just saying here, like, I don't think it's fair to dismiss Marc-Andre Fleury. Drove him to his first NHL game. Matt Murley was the shofar for Marc-Andre Fleury. So
far, the shofar.
Yeah, the shofar. Like he drove him. Never heard of a shofar? You've never heard of a shofar?
Wait, you got
okay. Am I doing one of my things where I have a word completely wrong here? Now I'm second guessing myself.
No, the shofar is the Jewish thing. Chauffeur is the driver.
Chauffeur, whatever. I put a different
Chauffeur
emphasis.
is the driver.
It's the same thing. The driver.
No, I knew that.
Okay, I didn't chauffeur. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's chauffeur, not chauffeur. Okay,
Yeah.
this isn't Aladdin, I guess.
Grinelli
Right?
actually just texted me. Colby pronounced it completely wrong. He probably doesn't even know that what a chauffeur is.
Maybe I have a speech impediment, and
That's
now you're coming
hilarious.
after me, and I have a speech impediment. All right, G. Johnny's complaining that you haven't paid him yet, G. So you better pay the man, okay?
We
Pay
made
the
a hell
man.
of a commercial yesterday.
We're gonna play that for you at some point here, but. So I'm wondering now, like now we've gone through this. They both blow a horn. Now that we have gone through this, like, do we think Marc-Andre Fleury, like, where are we putting him? Is he top 5? Is he top 10? Like, now that we've
J-Rock had a good comment
presented
too.
our case, we've presented the facts and the evidence. Where does everybody sit? We get it in your chat. Where do you put Marc-Andre Fleury? Mute Singsy, Vic, because he's high today with his top 25. They're pouring in right now. We're seeing what everybody thinks.
Are we healthy scratching Singsy for tomorrow?
But does he get a meeting, or like does he get a veteran meeting, because he's he's like a veteran in these circles, so he gets a meeting, right?
Okay, let's. Oh, that's a good point too. There's a couple good points. J-Rock also said, recency bias is a thing. Watching Marc-Andre Fleury from 2006, 2013, he was unbelievable.
That's what I'm saying. We're not talking about this guy in his prime. He's played so long.
But also, good point for my brother-in-law, actually. Thanks to Josh for watching. How far does his personality push him up the list? I feel like we want to give Fleury a higher ranking because everyone loves him. Do you not agree with that?
I mean, not based on what the feedback people not many people are in our chat are sitting here saying top 5. We have all the way to 25 in our chat.
I think here's how we do it. I'll go through all these goalies. 1 game elimination. You tell me who you'd rather have. Is that fair?
Go ahead.
I think we can skip Brodeur and Roy, right?
Yeah, because they're 1-2.
All right. Roberto Luongo, game 7. Would you rather have Luongo or Marc-Andre Fleury?
Probably Fleury.
So Luongo's 4th in all-time wins.
I'm not a Luongo guy, but I'd rather have Dominic Hasek. I'd rather have Tim Thomas. Yeah. Like, there are guys I'd rather have.
Lundqvist. I'd rather have Henrik Lundqvist.
Lundqvist I'd probably put in there, but like, we're still not outside of 10 guys. We're still within the 10. Like, I would have Flower easily in the top 10 in all time. I would have him easily in the top 10.
Yeah,
where in the top 10? I would probably argue somewhere between 4 and 8, maybe. But I also I don't. It's hard to compare him to guys who are playing in an era where guys had wooden sticks. When Fleury came into the National Hockey League, it was just probably at the end of the wooden sticks. Like, synergies became pretty full time. I mean, Stastny was playing with a wooden stick till like 2010, probably 11 even.
Think about current guys. Vasilevsky. I'm taking Vasilevsky.
Mm-hmm.
What about a guy like Jonathan Quick? I feel like that's a tough one. Like, Jonathan Quick, I'd probably lean Quick over Fleury in a game 7. Like, in their prime.
In their prime. Yeah. Okay. That's fair.
I think I would. I'm trying to think who else were like the goalies of the 2010s really that, were that dominant. Like Carey Price. I'd probably take. I don't know. That's a tough one. No, I'd probably take Carey Price. I'd take Carey Price.
But he's right. Look, the reality is he's a top 10 goalie. All right. We don't. Yeah. We've
good conversation though.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, it wasn't planned. I think this kind of just sprung from everybody in the chat and just seeing everybody's reaction to, us talking about Fleury and I just don't want people to discount the fact that this guy literally is the second most winning goaltender of all time, and I feel like people do that, and I think it's because he's played so long and he hasn't been the same number 1 guy that he was. And I'm glad you pulled out the playoff wins. I thought that was a great great stat for you. You know, I'm not always the biggest fan of
Yeah.
stats, but that was a great pull and a great stat.
Those are they're just surprising of how good he's been.
Yeah. Well, let's
Okay.
stay on.
Yeah.
Wait, let's stay on goaltenders really quick and talk about another goaltender that I think you probably ruined the guy's career.
I did?
Sam
Oh,
is Montembeault. You were calling this guy a potential Vezina winner about 10 days ago on this show.
In fairness, he went up against the playoff high-flying offense Seattle Kraken last night. You know, I said the Kraken are a playoff team, and I was all over their vibes, and you disagreed with the
No,
vibes.
you were not all over the vibes of the Seattle
Oh,
Kraken.
I was.
You were
I
on
was.
the vibes of the Utah hockey
I
club.
think the Kraken were a vibes team
How are the
too.
vibes doing out in Utah right now?
Couldn't be worse. But
How do you think Oli Mata, the trade for him, is going to put them back in the playoff picture?
No, but
I mean, I will say this though about that trade. When Utah is healthy and they have all of their D, and you look at their group now, again, when they get healthy, when Marino's back and you have Marino, Sergachev, you've got now Oli Mata is going to eventually be like their number 5D, right? When they're healthy, he's a pretty good number 5. If he's on your third pair when you're healthy, that's a good decor.
Yeah.
I know I'm forgetting one guy. Who's the other guy that's injured besides Marino?
Jersey's out for like 4 to 6 months.
Yeah,
right?
I mean they're out for. I'm just saying when they get healthy, that's a pretty good back end. I mean, you have Ian Cole, you've got Bortuzzo, like they're veterans, but like again, good, 4, 5, 6 type of guys. Like they're important too. A lot of teams have a weak third pair. Just ask Edmonton. I mean, they'd kill for a steady third pair.
Yeah, I think right now the way I see it with how the West is trending, I'd say 5 teams are coming out of the Central and 3 are coming out of the Pacific. The Pacific has been weird. But I think Utah can sneak into that 5th spot in the Central. I still do.
Okay, well, you're wrong, but that's all right.
Sneak in. I'm saying sneak in.
How about Bruce Boudreau telling you were wrong like 5 minutes into being on our show today?
Well, I was wrong.
That's been happening to you with a lot of our guests. Maybe you need to rethink your questions.
Who else said I was wrong?
I mean, almost all of our guests have been coming on here and like at least dunking on you once. Charlie McAvoy said he will never come on the show again.
That was a different story.
For those of you who didn't hear our summer episodes, Charlie
that was
McAvoy
beyond dumb.
Was like, I mean,
I think Charlie and I are over it though. We've been texting a lot lately, so we're good.
You and him, are you and him in a group chat with Ottinger?
No, we're not. But I should text Charlie to give Ottinger a bump, but then Charlie would probably like, don't go on that show. Charlie's the last guy I'll go to for help with a guest.
All right. So the last thing I wanted to talk about, the team franchise values that came out today. I think Kevin Weeks was on this first. Sportico just released a list. If you could put that list up on the screen, Vic, and you see the team valuations and you see the increase in value. The Toronto Maple Leafs were $3.66 billion, 38% increase. Number 2, New York Rangers, $3.25 billion, 33% increase. The Montreal Canadiens, 2.93, 29% increase. The Bruins moved up a spot into number 4 at $2.67 billion. They had a 50% increase in 1 year in their valuation. LA moved up a spot to $2.5 billion, 45% increase. The Chicago Blackhawks, $2.45 billion, 33% increase. They actually moved down a couple of spots. Edmonton moved up $2.4 billion. Philadelphia, they moved down a couple spots here at $2.29 billion. Washington Capitals, $1.86 billion. And the Detroit Red Wings rounding out the top 10 at $1.85 billion. Every team in the league was over $1 billion in franchise value. Why do we not have a luxury tax? Why? Why do we have a triple hard salary cap when every team in the National Hockey League is valued at over $1 billion? Give me a break.
Can you explain the luxury tax and how it works?
So for every dollar over, you pay a tax back into the league, and it gets distributed probably to the lower end teams that don't have the same level of valuation and aren't nearly as profitable. So if, let's say, the New York Rangers, if the cap is 100 million and you want to go to 125 million, every dollar over the cap, there's a tax, a luxury tax, like exactly how it sounds. You want to be luxurious, you want to spend over the cap. For every dollar, you got to pay 50 cents, a 50-cent tax for every dollar over you spend. So let's say you want to spend.
Is that what the NBA does?
You want to spend $25 extra million in payroll. Well, you're going to pay X amount of dollars in luxury tax back to the league to continue to keep it healthy. And Merle said, why don't we have health insurance for all former players? I mean, I would agree with that. Everybody should. I just don't understand why the NHL, doesn't have a luxury tax situation. And I don't understand other sports CBAs and the way that they do it. But it's definitely the only league that has this quote unquote triple hard cap. And I think it's probably detrimental to the league. I think it hurts growth. And I saw Jordan Schmaltz had a tweet yesterday where he kind of went in on the NHL and why they don't market well. I'm actually trying to find the tweet right now, and then if I can find it, I'll send it to Vic. But he made some really interesting points, and I think it all kind of ties into this whole thing as to why the league is not promoting superstars more and doing individual marketing, and you do have the owners making a ton of money. So I don't know, it bothers me to see. I mean, not bothers me. I'm happy that franchises are all worth $1 billion or more, every single one. But let's get rid of this triple hard salary cap. Let's stop telling players they're greedy. That whole premise annoys me.
Yeah, no, it's a good point to bring up. And let us know if you find that tweet.
Yeah, I'm scrolling his timeline right now looking for it, but he tweets a lot.
While you do that, I can go into tonight's bet of the night, presented by Bet365, because we're actually going to ride the hot hand of Vic, and there are 6 games tonight that we can talk about. The Islanders play Columbus, Winnipeg's in Detroit, Tampa Bay is at Colorado, Calgary at Utah, and Vegas at LA. And the Devils and Vancouver, actually the late night game. That's going to be the Hughes Bowl, as we call it. But tonight's bet of the night, we're actually going to stick with Vic, and we're going to go Columbus on the money line, taking on the Islanders in the second leg of a back-to-back. The Islanders only scored 1 goal last night. We've talked about their offense struggling, while Columbus is one of the highest scoring teams in the NHL. They're taking on Semyon Varlamov tonight, who will get the start for the Islanders. And I think we're just going to feed the Islanders for now, right? Because the vibes seem pretty bad over there. And Columbus, they've won 2 out of their last 3. Sean Monahan's on fire. This team continues to score. They're fun to root for. And tonight we'll back the Blue Jackets. So that's tonight's bet of the night. And have you found that tweet yet, Colby?
I can't seem to find it. I don't know if he deleted it, because there was a part on that tweet where he went directly at Gary Bettman. So, you know what? I think I might have it. I think I might have just gotten an assist. No, I did just get, someone sent me a tweet, but it's not the actual one that I was looking for. But yeah, I can't find the one. Jordan Schmaltz had a list of things why the National Hockey League is not growing and being marketed properly, basically. And he was talking about how no players in the NHL have podcasts, because if you're doing something that's individual hockey, the superstars in hockey are we guys, not me guys. And that's what makes hockey guys the best, but also it holds the league back with marketing and stuff like that. So I can't, sorry, G, this is a different one. I don't see the tweet. I think that he must have deleted it. I don't know if it was a late night tweet, and I might have read it at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning last night. And now
watching video.
No, I didn't watch video from the game, but I was awake because I was just so annoyed at the way it went last night. Let's see here. I got another text. Maybe this is the one. This didn't come in as a link, so let's see if I can fire it into my name bar.
All right. Well, while you're talking again, I'll just fill in with something.
Okay, I'm going to read this tweet. I got the tweet now. Okay. Why is hockey marketing light years behind leagues like the NBA, NFL, and UFC? Not enough promoting its players or encouraging self-promoting. Players are discouraged to self-promote themselves. It is embedded to hockey culture to put the team before yourself. And that's honestly what makes hockey dudes the best kind of dudes. Selfless, team-oriented givers. Even the superstars possess these traits. But if a current NHL guy had his own podcast, like guys from other leagues above, he'd be looked at as an outcast. He'd be judged, and in reality, it would just give an in-depth look into the realness behind the gear to all the great personalities the game has. Just because you talk shit and have an open conversation with another fella, the league doesn't mean you don't care about the game 2 days later. Look at what Max Crosby does. We're in the era of information, and people want to know what these players are all about. It only puts more money into the players' pockets and funnels more viewership to the league as a whole. Why not have a hockey superstar go on the Pat McAfee show once a week like Aaron Rodgers if ESPN cares so much about hockey, ... Well, that's why we get you, Pat Maroon, every week on our show, FYI. That's not part of the quote.
Ghosting me right now.
We're not tapping into pop culture. There needs to be a way bigger emphasis on NHL and NBA, especially with owners who share buildings or even own both teams. Collaborating with bigger brands or industries is a great marketing tool to gain notoriety with non-traditional fans. Fan experience. It's all about the entertainment business. No, I don't just want to hear from the dude who sang Barracuda at the Winter Classic just because he's from Seattle. He's 77 years old. You'd think some kid born in 2009 would know that. Relevancy matters. Some may disagree, but adapt or die. You have the ability to change. Give me a call, Gary. I'm around, fella. Hey, listen, spot on tweet from Jordan Schmaltz. Thanks for sending me that, Jeremiah. I appreciate it. I don't know why I couldn't find that, but that's spot on. Is anything he said? Do you disagree with anything he said?
No, but I think the biggest thing too is finding the NHL player that wants to be the one to do it. And I think that's something that we're going to have to try to tackle, right? Because even Colby, I mean, you know, everyone knows, like, not a lot of players do genuinely want to speak. Like, a lot of players in our sport play hockey because they genuinely love hockey and don't necessarily love everything that comes with it. They don't really want to be the ones that have to speak up on issues, on anything. You know, I think guys do like to keep to themselves genuinely for the most part with hockey players. I mean,
but I think that's beaten into you at such a young age because it's such a we, not a me sport.
But what are you going to do? Teach 12-year-olds to like,
trust me, they're already learning how to be selfish. I mean, it's already happening. It's already happening. So we'll see if it makes its way up to the National Hockey League. But I think the league needs to push and promote it. I really do. Like, the league needs to push and promote it. It's like, it is interesting to me to see, like, you know, I see clips from like Draymond Green playing NBA games, and then he's on a podcast. Like, you know,
the Knicks, you know, Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson have their own show.
And then Travis Kelce, the guy's playing on the best team in the NFL, winning Super Bowl after Super Bowl. Yeah, he dates Taylor Swift and that whole thing. Like, you know, which again, I don't really jump on that train. I can't say that I liked old Taylor Swift. I don't new Taylor Swift music doesn't really do it for me.
I like
it. But again, like, those guys play on Sunday. They record a podcast. Like, you get all this behind the scenes things, and nobody's frowning upon it clearly if he's doing it.
Well, that also is a different story too, because like you said, the NFL, they're playing 1 day a week. Like, they probably have much more free time to do those things. Like, if you're playing 4 games in 1 week,
you have free time. You have free time.
You do a whole podcast production?
You have free time. It doesn't need to be a production. You could record 1 podcast a week. Yeah. There's no doubt in my mind.
If you could pick one NHL player to have their own podcast right now, who would you want?
I mean, it's too hard of a question to answer because I don't know the young guys' personalities all that well. Yeah. There's a lot of young players in the National Hockey League that I don't know them super well, right? I mean, look, if you had some veteran guys that weren't, like, I'd love Ryan Reeves to have a podcast. You know, I'd love put Ryan Reeves and Pat Maroon on their own show. Like, that, you mean to tell me like that wouldn't be interesting? I see someone say Jack Hughes. Like, does Jack Hughes have personality? His brothers don't. neither of his brothers have any personality.
Quinn has a great personality. It's very under the radar.
They don't publicly show
Quinn doesn't put himself out there that much.
You see these guys, they get in front of the cameras and they go limp. You know what I mean? So, I think that
Neil Fody said, I like the idea of the Kachuk brothers being like the Kelsey brothers.
You wouldn't want to have those two talking about hockey every week, talking about relevant topics around the National Hockey League. I mean, that'd be great. Let's get them on the Daily Faceoff podcast network, like on the Nation Network, right? Let's bring him in. I'm just saying, like, I saw that tweet from Schmaltz and I was like, the guy's spot on here. Like, he really is. He's spot on. Imagine John Tortorella on a podcast every week.
Well,
Could
what
you
I will
imagine
say, I want to credit the Anaheim Ducks, because the Anaheim Ducks were the first team that I saw do it. They have this thing called the Duck Stream. It's like a 24/7 digital platform where a friend of mine, actually, Alexis Downey, they actually sit down with the players and Pat Verbeek, and even Greg Cronin hops on every now and then. But like once a week, they have a player on, or the GM on, or
Johnny, a lot of teams. I mean, when I was in Chicago, we had a team podcast where we had a player on every single week.
I've never seen it.
I have no idea if they still do it. I mean, they don't know how to market anything, but
every team should have their own show with the fans. The players should go on every week.
I think almost every team has their own podcast. I do. I think most.
I disagree fully. I'd say
the Flyers have multiple team podcasts that players
go on every week.
Yes, the CEO of the team, the owner of the team. Yeah,
never seen it.
We had Rush Joy on here. Rush Joy, their podcast is a Flyers production podcast. They do live stuff during the games, intermissions. The owner of the team goes on their show. Danny Briere, Torts, they've all gone on it. So I'm just telling you.
That's not every team.
Maybe not New York, but
what other team has that?
Well, I know the Chicago Blackhawks have it.
Yeah,
you're talking about the Anaheim Mighty Ducks. I'd be willing to bet if you searched a little bit harder, you'd find it. I'm not saying they market it well. Jason Martinez has something with the Flyers too. The Flyers have a 24/7 broadcast network. Bill Meltzer does stuff. I'm just saying, I'm not saying every team. I'll backtrack on that. But I know there's a number of teams that do it. They don't market it well. Spit and Chicklets markets the shit out of their show.
Don't curse. We have Bet365
Okay,
on.
my bad. So -1 for me. But look how much those guys. My feed every day between Daily Faceoff and Spit and Chicklets, like it's clip after clip after clip. Like, give our team credit. Give our producers credit too. Our clips are all over the internet all day marketing our clips. You don't see teams marketing their clips and marketing these things anywhere. You just don't see it, right? I mean, I can't go on social media without seeing something from us, seeing something from Chicklets, seeing something from what's the name of the show that Upshaw does again? Missing Curfew. That's all over my timeline too. Empty Netters. Those guys are really good. They're clipping, they're marketing, right? I mean, it's all over our social medias.
Yeah, and I will say one thing that is above every other thing that I've seen on YouTube, and yes, things I just said Empty Netters also, but the Behind the B that the Bruins do, they've been doing it for I think like 10 years almost.
A long time, yeah.
That show is unbelievable. Like I tune in. I'm not a Bruins fan at all. I watch that almost every single new episode I see on YouTube.
Is Dennis Leary still doing it? Doing the voiceover?
I don't know. I can't.
Okay.
Confirm that one.
I think that's really important.
They do a great job.
But that takes me to the Amazon thing. I thought the Amazon series was boring. And I didn't even get to the last 2 episodes. And
those are the best too.
But you can't put out a series with 6 or 8 episodes and have 90% of them be completely boring.
What did you think was the most boring?
I mean, dude, the first couple of episodes, it's like watching paint dry.
Yeah. G just said, actually, he texted me that Behind the B was started when Tyler Sagan was traded. A+ marketing. Oh, he also sent me the small tweet. I didn't see that till just now. My bad, G. But I thought the Amazon thing, listen, HBO 24/7 when it first started, like the Caps and the Penguins, that first ever one, and the Rangers Flyers, those were incredible. And I thought the Amazon series, like, you got to watch the last 2 episodes, honestly, because it's really, it's cool. The last 2 episodes were unreal.
I just feel like I see a lot of people in the chat saying they liked it, and I'm not going to tell you what you should or shouldn't like. Like, it's obviously personal preference, but like, I agree with Olivia here 100%. It was fine. Like, it's not like it was horrible. It was fine. But in my opinion, it was no better than fine. It could have been way better. They left a lot on the table. Access seemed very limited. It just didn't seem drawn out. Like, I don't know. Like, it wasn't compelling. To me, it wasn't compelling. And it's better than nothing. Definitely wasn't insane from NHL stuff. Okay, sure. Like, so we're just sitting here saying, yeah, it was fine, but it was a great opportunity. And I don't think they landed the plane. I think it was just super average. I'm
seeing some comments though. Like, I think J-Rock said, you're a former player. It's different for us. I love the Amazon series because it's a look we don't always get. And listen, I never played in the NHL too, so I can like agree with that statement. But with what you're saying, Colby, also, it's like, I thought the jumping around was weird. Like, there was some playoff games and some regulars. It wasn't like a storyline. Like, the 1 through 6 episodes, you don't necessarily need to watch them in order, which I kind of loved about the HBO 24/7 series, because it was everything leading up to the Winter Classic. Like, this wasn't necessarily everything leading up to the Stanley Cup final.
Like, let's do a training camp show on HBO, or like, and New York Marine has a great comment here. This makes a lot of sense. The people in this chat are not the audience that you want to gain. People here are watching no matter what. NHL needs to capture a bigger market. Well said. Everybody in this chat is going to watch that. You guys love hockey. You're coming to this. You all love your teams. You bleed for this game. You bleed for this sport. You bleed for your teams. Like, you're the most loyal of the fans. But that
was my point though, Colby. If I'm showing this to a friend who's not a hockey fan, he's probably so confused watching the 1 through 6. Like,
right.
Why is this round 1? And then why is that the Stanley Cup final in the next episode? Why is this the regular? Like, you know what I mean? With the Amazon.
Yeah. I just, again, I'm not saying it was bad. I just think it could have been so much better. It could have been more creative. HBO Hard Knocks, to me, has set the bar, right, with the NFL. And like, you're not even, and I know the NFL's a bigger ordeal, but I don't think the NHL is even in the ballpark with that Amazon series. I don't think it's even in the ballpark.
Also, again, though, with the NFL, like, guys aren't afraid to like say what's on their mind in the NFL. It's different. Like, I don't know if you're an NHL player and you're getting cut, you don't want to be filmed. It's like the most humiliating thing ever. But it's like, it's become normalized in Hard Knocks on the NFL.
I'm aware of what it feels like to be cut from training.
But that's what I'm saying.
I know it very well.
You're sitting in with Don Sweeney. If you're in Don Sweeney's office or whatever, and you're getting cut, let's say, like, you want that blasted out to the whole world. Like, it's become normal in the NFL where guys are cut and it's put out
on Twitter half the time before the player even finds out. We live in a world of information, immediate information. It's why Twitter is bigger than anything else there is in media, in news, because it's immediate information.
I think NHL players still need to show that they're comfortable with this stuff before we really elevate it to the next level. Because I'm not convinced that NHL players want all this attention. I don't think they do.
Mm-hmm.
Where other sports, athletes like and enjoy the attention.
Yeah, because it's
Draymond Green loves attention.
It's a we culture, not a me culture. So I always say, then let guys do it together. Give somebody their security blanket. Ask a player about another player, not themselves. You ask a guy to talk about themselves, it sucks. You ask him to talk about another player, it's way better. They give you way more insight, way more thorough answers. You're way more excited to talk about your teammates than yourself in hockey. So ask them about their teammates. I tell you that all the time when we talk about asking questions to players and doing in-game interviews.
Yeah. And NY Marine, we're not necessarily disagreeing. He said, I don't agree with Johnny on this. I think the players are afraid to want the attention because they're ridiculed. That's kind of what we've been saying. Like, anytime, I'll tell you, as a college student, and in my junior year of college, I started a talk show on campus. My teammates ripped me apart for doing it, but I wanted to do media when I graduated. Like, they made fun of me.
Stay with it.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's how I got to where I am now. But I was doing a talk show called The Laker Effect. I interviewed other student athletes on campus, and I interned with the Erie Otters. And yeah, I got, my teammates made fun of me for it, but like,
it's so much more normal now, though. Like, I think if you were doing that now, playing it at college, I don't think you'd get made fun of like that.
But I think, in our world too, and I know we've gone a little off topic on today's show, but this is like a nice, genuine conversation. If anyone in today's era, like a social media era, no matter who you are, when you start posting content, no matter what kind of content it is, your friends are going to make fun of you for the most part. And then if you continue to do it, if you stay consistent with it, one day they'll stop.
But
And
I
that's
think
when you break. No, but
but
Colby,
I think even it's
your
getting
friends
more,
wouldn't be good friends if they weren't ripping on you.
but also, and the other thing is it's getting normalized because of NIL. Like, look at the things college players are posting now on their Instagrams. Like, they're doing stuff for Chipotle. They're doing stuff for clothing companies. They're getting free suits. They're posting pictures that look like modeling pictures because it's like, hey, we're going to give you a few $1,000s for your name, image, and likeness. Like, it's becoming more normalized in hockey. It is. So we'll see if it trickles up. Like, I don't know. And we'll see if it trickles up. I'm also laughing at Street Shark. I know
I was laughing at New York Marine. He said you upgraded from your friends ripping on you to Colby ripping on you.
All right. Look, I think we definitely dragged off topic today, but but again, it wasn't part of the show plan. But it certainly, took on a life of its own. And we've gone a little bit longer today, and we do appreciate you guys kind of sticking with us. One thing I do notice about our show, like when we do go long, our audience grows. Like we don't have a massive drop off when we drag the show out a little bit. So we do really appreciate the fact that all of our loyal peeps stick with us.
Yeah.
Like, you guys hang with us, whether we're an hour 30. You guys really do hang with us. And so I'm going to ask you right now, if you're here with us, subscribe to the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel. Give this episode a like. Bruce Boudreau was absolutely great today.
Yeah.
His insights, again, like, you're the guy who's just seen it all and been through it all. So getting his insights on these situations are really incredible. We're not exactly sure what tomorrow's show is going to look like. Johnny's working on getting Pat Maroon for his weekly appearance. They're on the West Coast. It does make it a little bit more difficult.
They're in San Jose.
Everybody in the world pushes Johnny around. He's just kind of a pushover. So maybe I'll have to text Pat and try to lock him in. But we appreciate all you guys. Johnny, it sounds like you have one more thing to say, and then I'm going to wrap the show.
Yeah, a couple quick shout outs. First, I saw Stinky's comment about G doing Chicklets University, which again, Colby and I are huge fans of his college guys.
Is that coming? Is one coming out today?
I believe his Chicklets U with Army, who actually my good friend Mikey Sacco is the captain of Army. He's a Syosset kid. We grew up training together. So I want to shout out G and Mikey Sacco. That should be a great interview or great video for Chicklets U. They do an awesome job. So I really want to promote that. And then I know we missed her yesterday, and I saw some comments in the chat today. But Olivia, it's actually G just texted me. It comes out tomorrow at 11 a.m. Chicklets U. So look out for Army Chicklets U tomorrow.
And that's a program. And I got to tell you something. So
there's a lot
with Army, their assistant head coach is Zach McKelvey, who was a teammate of mine in the American League, and he's taking over next year as head coach. So him and I have been chatting quite a bit. We actually have two guys that are committed to go to Army next year on the Titans. So, I've been communicating with those guys. That is a program that I know almost nothing about. And so that I think I might be more excited for that Chicklets U coming out tomorrow than any other one. And they've done some great ones. I saw G was just up at Michigan as well, and I'm sure that'll be incredible. But Army is such an unknown hockey program to me that when I saw he was doing a Chicklets U at Army, I got pumped. Like I can't wait to watch that one. Probably more excited to see that one than any of the ones that they've done yet because of how unknown it is.
Yeah. Merle said, wait till the RPI one, Colby, which will be funny too. But yeah, they do an awesome job.
Nobody else will take your call, Merle. So you guys got to do RPI.
But yeah, no, very excited for the Army one. And shout out to Brian Riley as well. Coach Riley, who's been there, for decades. It's a family, basically a family business coaching at Army for the Rileys. So, I think Jack Riley, who is actually my captain at Merciers, is probably going to take over in the future. He's not taking over next year, but he's an assistant coach there right now. So a lot of history at Army as well. And then the other shout out on
Zach McKelvey. So I don't think he'll be taking.
No, I know. I said later on. But the other shout I wanted to give was to Olivia, who's in our chat every day. I know she missed yesterday's show because she had a job interview. So hope that went well. And we're looking to hear back from that. Hopefully get a second round. That's all the shout outs. Got to give a shout out to Vic too. Vic actually got Bruce Boudreau on today, so we'll give snaps to Vic. Vic actually, believe it or not, you guys think I get ghosted? I don't know if anyone gets ghosted more than Vic does. So we got to give him a shout out and give him a little crap too, because we love keeping Vic accountable. But
all right, so,
great show today.
Good show today. We appreciate, I think the chat probably dragged this show out a lot longer than we had planned, but that's okay. We love that goaltending conversation. That was pretty interesting. Keep an eye on Johnny's social media. We'll get some clips out later today, and we'll try to update you guys on what we're bringing you tomorrow. But other than that, we hope everybody has a great day, and we'll see you right back here 9 a.m. tomorrow.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Saravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content, so hit that subscribe button.